Handling information. Access guidance, information, and advice about handling information. It may be necessary to obtain further guidance, information, and advice about handling information. There are several sources of information that you may consider using, including legislation, such as the Data Protection Act, describe what is required by law for the management of information. Manager. Your manager will be able to advise you on what to do if you have any queries or concerns about handling information. Colleagues. Your coworkers, especially senior members of staff, may be able to advise you on the best course of action if you are not sure. Agreed ways of working. Your organization's policies and procedures will explain how you should be recording, storing, and sharing information in your workplace. Training or induction. Formal and/or informal training, as well as the induction process, should provide a sound foundation on data handling. Own research. You may decide to conduct your own research at your local library or via the internet. The Information Commissioner's Office provides information about data protection and compliance. Recording, storing, or sharing of information. If you have concerns about the recording, storing, and sharing of information, you should inform your manager immediately so that they can investigate and take action. This could be because you have witnessed bad practice, agreed ways of working not being followed correctly, or there has been a breach of confidentiality. You may also have suggestions about how to improve a policy or procedure, or have queries about an agreed way of working. As well as informing your manager verbally, it is prudent to make a written statement of your concerns and sign and date it, especially if the concern is serious, as it may be needed as evidence at a later date. After informing your manager, they should take action to minimize any damage caused and take measures to prevent it from happening again in future. Your manager should keep you informed of what steps they have taken. If you feel that your manager is not taking your concern seriously or no action has been taken, you should escalate it following your organization's whistleblowing policy and procedure. This will usually mean taking your concern to a more senior level of management or a dedicated department in larger organizations. If your concern is still not dealt with, you have a duty to report it to an external agency, such as the Information Commissioner's Office, ICO. Your organization's whistleblowing policy will guide you through this. Up-to-date, complete, accurate, and legible record. All records that you keep in documentation that you are responsible for must adhere to certain standards to ensure that they are lawful, fit for purpose, and adhere to your duty of care and other responsibilities. In short, this means that any records you complete should be up-to-date, complete, accurate, and legible. Up-to-date records. Records should always be up-to-date. Documentation, such as care plans, are constantly changing and should be regularly reviewed to ensure that they fulfill the individual's current needs, wishes, and preferences. Old documents could result in a member of staff performing tasks that are no longer required and possibly even harmful to an individual, for example, administering medication that is no longer needed. Any changes to records should also be signed and dated and an audit trail maintained so that the history of the document is kept on record. Important information, such as the address and contact number of the individual's next of kin or GP, can change regularly, so it is important to ensure these are kept up to date. Complete records. All records should be fully completed to ensure that no information is missed. You should aim to include as much detail as possible and include the time, date, and your signature. Incomplete records could result in staff not being aware of the whole picture or having to use guesswork. Setting a regular time and routine for completing documentation can help to ensure things are not missed. Accurate records. It is essential that all records are 100% accurate. This means sticking to the facts and writing in an objective manner. You should not include your personal feelings or opinions. If records are not accurate, it could result in incorrect conclusions being drawn and an individual receiving the wrong care and support. Ensuring that you record information as soon as possible helps with accuracy because the information will still be fresh in your mind. Legible records. All records must be legible so that anyone reading them can understand and comprehend them. This may mean slowing down your writing or writing in block capitals to ensure clarity. If others cannot read the records you write, then they will not be of any use. Any errors should be clearly deleted with a single line. Striking through the unwanted words, ink remover, or correction fluid should never be used. Example question and answer. Prepare a set of guidelines to remind social care workers of best practice in handling information. In the guidelines, you must explain how to maintain records so that they are up to date, complete, accurate, and legible. Describe how to ensure records are stored securely. Describe how to ensure security when reading or making entries into records. Describe any special feature of different storage systems that help to ensure security. These guidelines are written for adult care workers and aim to explain best practices for handling information, including record maintenance, storage, and security. Record maintenance. All records should be written neatly and legibly in black ink and should be clear, concise, factual, and accurate. Any errors should be clearly marked by putting a line through it and initialing, and all forms should be completed pro forma. This will ensure that all records are comprehensible to anyone reading them and all the necessary details are included. Records should be completed as soon as is practicably possible so that it is fresh in your memory and should be kept up to date. They should be completed in private with no risk of being observed by unauthorized individuals. The time, date, your signature, and printed name should be included on all records to ensure transparency and accountability. Record storage. Records should be stored in accordance with legislation, company policies, and best practices. This means ensuring they are stored in a safe place that cannot be accessed by anyone unauthorized. This may mean in a locked room or a locked drawer. Records should not be removed from the workplace unless absolutely necessary and returned to secure storage as soon as they've been updated. Electronic records should be stored securely as well with password protection and permissions so that only authorized personnel can access them. Records should be kept only for as long as needed and then disposed of properly, for example, shredded. Ensure security when reading or updating records. Records should only be read or updated in a secure and private location that is free from prying eyes. You should also ensure that nobody can overhear you when talking about personal information. Once you have finished reading or updating, the records should be returned to their secure storage immediately. Electronic documents should not be left open on a computer if you have to leave. You should either close them once you have finished or lock your computer if you move away from it. Special features of storage systems. Paper records are usually stored securely in cabinets or drawers that are protected by a lock and key. They will also be stored in a locked room. Only authorized people will have access to them because only they will have the key. Electronic records should always be password protected and stored on secure computer systems. Only people that have the password or have been given authorization on their user account will be able to access them. Information storage system. Paper documentation should be stored in a secure place according to your organization's policies and procedures. All care settings must follow guidelines for safe storage and recording and have policies and procedures on these which workers understand and follow. The information must be only accessible by authorized persons and kept in a filing cabinet, drawer, folder. To restrict access, the filing cabinet should have a lock on it, or the room that the paperwork resides in may only be entered using a key, electronic code, digital ID badge, biometrics. These storage areas should also be fire and water resistant to prevent damage and destruction as a result of a disaster. In the realm of the electronic information storage system, we can use passwords to lock computer files, encrypt confidential papers, firewall to protect the computer system. Electronic storage systems. Electronic storage systems and the use of a database are methods of filing using a computer system. Files are stored on the computer. There are many advantages of using a database. This is a space-saving method of filing, as all files are stored on hard drives, file servers or floppy disks, which are much more compact than filing cabinets. Files are easily updated and edited. Database filing can be safer, as files can be protected by passwords. Information is more readily accessed on screen and can be printed out if required. Specific information can be accessed easily by searching the database, rather than plowing through sheets of information to find the part you need. Files do not need to be organized in any particular order, as files can be accessed at the touch of a button. Special precautions must be taken to safeguard computerized data against loss or corruption, and this may entail keeping backup duplicate copies of disks in a secure place, arranging for personal passwords to be used by staff authorized to have access to the data. The password should be changed regularly. The use of codes known only to the users of documents or files. Locking files and disks to prevent data from being altered or added. Security of manual and electronic records. Having secure systems for recording, storing and sharing information is essential in health and social care settings, because we handle sensitive information and must ensure the confidentiality of the individuals that we care for and the colleagues that we work with. To meet these assessment criteria, you must be able to describe the features and demonstrate the practices that ensure data security. A secure system is a way of storing data that only allows access to information by authorized people. This could be a locked filing cabinet or password-protected computer software. Secure systems will also protect data from other risks, such as fire, flood, or mechanical or electronic failure. Manual information storage, paper or hard copies. Paper documentation should be stored in a secure place according to your organization's policies and procedures. This may be in a filing cabinet, drawer, or folder that is only accessible by authorized persons. To restrict access, the filing cabinet should have a lock on it, or the room that the paperwork resides in may only be entered using a key, electronic code, digital ID badge, or biometrics, for example, fingerprint scanner, etc. These storage areas should also be fire and water resistant to prevent damage and destruction as a result of a disaster. Records should ideally not be removed from the secure storage location, or if they are, then procedures must be followed to ensure that they are not left in an insecure area. Paperwork containing personal information should never be left unattended in public areas. When discussing information contained in secure records, it is important that precautions are taken to ensure that nobody is able to overhear the conversation to protect confidentiality. Information that no longer needs to be accessed on a day-to-day basis may be archived in a secure storage facility or shredded or incinerated. Policies must be in place to guide the destruction of information. Electronic information storage, computer systems. Records may be kept on computer systems and access restricted to personnel on a need-to-know basis. To comply with data protection legislation, these records may only be accessed using a password. Granular permissions may be used so that only certain senior staff are able to amend records, and a digital audit trail should be recorded to track changes. This prevents accidental or deliberate deletion of information. It is important that a staff member's password is not shared with others, and that they log out, or lock, their computer when they leave their desk to ensure that others with physical access to their computer are not able to access unauthorized information whilst they are away. The records may be stored on the hard drive of the local computer or, ideally, on a secure networked server or cloud-based location. Regular backups should be performed to safeguard against any potential data loss, and the backups should be stored in a separate secure location. It may be your organization's policy to encrypt files when they are transferred to other devices for extra layers of security. Software such as antivirus and firewalls may be used to ensure the integrity of the computers and networks being used. Practices for ensuring security. Although we have talked about some of the practices you should follow to ensure the security of confidential information in your work setting, it is important to highlight that each organization is different and will have different systems and ways of working. You will need to be familiar with your own organization's policies and procedures and ways of working to handle information correctly and securely. For example, your organization may have a policy that all documentation about the individuals that you support be stored on a server and not copied over to a local computer. There may be policies about the use of flash drives or installing personal software on a work-issued laptop. For paper-based systems, information may be color-coded. For example, care plans are stored in black lever arch files and financial information in green lever arch files. You may need to seek permission before making copies of records and ensure that personal information does not leave the building. All staff should know how to report a breach in security. This will usually be a report to your manager, but some organizations may have named information officers. Thank you. See you in